Today is Monday the 12th of February. It's 4 years since my mum crossed over to the other side of the veil today as well. This is the 4th week of my homeopathic journey. I have felt a bit sad, of course, which is probably only natural. I shed a few tears, but I'm all right. I made some embryo, I did some sewing, and I've just returned from my piano lesson. It was a good lesson, but interestingly, there were at least 2 orbs floating around the room, and Jake commented on it. Jake saw the orbs, as did I, and we watched them, and they moved around a bit. There was nothing reflective. I wasn't wearing jewellery. There wasn't anything around that could have cast a circular light. They were flitting around, and then after probably 3 or 4 minutes they disappeared. So it was definitely orbs. I'm now back home and I'm sitting down to do a bit of admin, maybe a bit of crafting, and then I will think about making myself a nice supper. Tomorrow is my consultation with Lee, and I'm looking forward to that. This is Tuesday, 13th of February 2024. I'm home now. I had my consultation with Lee this morning, which I think went well. I've had feelings of anger, but we talked about what those feelings were from, and we talked about other things that I'm working through. It's a phase that is part of the healing process. We talked about the mother wounding, particularly through my female line, and patterns of repeating in that regard. I don't really want to fall into any of the negative traps that my predecessors may have fallen into, but Lee says I'm dealing with everything anyway. We talked about how I feel physically generally, which isn't too bad. I talked about my predisposition to rashes and how I get them and how they manifest. I'd also misinterpreted the instructions for the last remedy, so I'd actually taken more than I should. And she said she will always give me extra, just in case I drop one. I thought she'd given me the exact amount. But she said taking too many of the natural remedy wouldn't have really caused the problems with the rash. The rash was an aggravation, but the next remedy will be more gentle. She knows to go super gentle with the remedies, especially to begin with, and hopefully gradually I'll be able to tolerate more. The weather is very dull today. I'm feeling a bit down, although I'm all right. I didn't have too bad a night's sleep. I woke up very shortly before 6 a.m. this morning, and I was up early to feed and water the cats and get them sorted out. Dan has been at Angels last night because he's had tunings in Surrey today. My next appointment is Thursday the 21st of March, and my remedy should be ready later on this week, and I'm looking forward to starting this new one. And I asked Lee just to make it really simple, the instructions, so I don't make the same mistake again. I have some bread bags and food wraps to wax, and that's all for now. Today is Wednesday, the 14th of February 2024. It's Valentine's Day. I'm wishing everybody a beautiful day. The weather's been dull. We've been out for lunch. We went to the home front tea room, which was quite nice. I had a veggie curry. Dan had a chicken stew and a cocoa. I had some jasmine dragon pearl tea, which was lovely. As we're in the year of the dragon, I decided I definitely need some dragon energy to get my mojo back. And what better way than drink some jasmine dragon pearl tea? Dan gave me a really nice box of Marc de Champagne truffles. We've just eaten a few of those. Well, more than a few. And he gave me some red roses and a nice card. And I gave Dan a card and a box of artisan chocolates from the Blind Chocolatier. Excellent chocolates. I bought Dan the dark box. If you want some really nice artisan chocolates, whether they're for normal diets or vegan, dairy free, I highly recommend them. They're so yummy. It's a small business as well, and I'm doing my utmost to continue to support small independent businesses. I popped into the PLE on the way down into Ramsgate. Dan nipped into the doctor's surgery to get my results from blood tests. I mean, they wouldn't say exactly what the results were, but I don't need to speak to the doctor, so everything's fine. And to be honest, I wouldn't care if I don't darken the doors of the practice or any other NHS institution for the next 10 years. That would be too soon. But I think we all know that the NHS is toxic and like a diseased bird. It's been badly infected by those who mean us harm or don't care what's happened or is happening to us, any of us. I have been watching the latest podcast between Dr. John Campbell and John, the Scottish guy who spoke out and challenged Rishi Sunak the other day on the GB News programme. He's since gone viral, if you pardon the pun. A very upsetting video, but one which I would recommend people do try and watch. It shows you at the greater extent to which people have been ignored, gaslit, and just treated unfairly and also cast aside. Full credit to the doctor in Glasgow under whose guidance John is now receiving the treatment he needs. And that's my message for today, and I hope everybody has a beautiful Valentine's Day. It doesn't need to be commercial, it's the little things that count, not grand gestures of gifts and such, but how we treat each other on a daily basis and how we show up in the world. This is Friday, the 16th of February 2024. Weather's not been very good, but today's a lot better. I always feel a bit down in the dumps when the weather's dull. I struggle with SAD, but today it's bright and I've been for a walk and down to the shops. I've been quite busy the last couple of days. I'm in a sad mode this week. That's just how things have affected me, although I'm all right. There's some strange energies as well. A lot of people are affected at the moment and feel all over the place, don't feel quite right in themselves. It's to do with the energetic frequencies partly as well. And the human resonance is still all over the place. There's multiple timelines, episodes that are happening again that have already happened before. And leaves you thinking, well, that happened 6 months ago, and yet the same thing is happening again. Oh, what's going on? That's just something to be aware of. Lee messaged me today to say that she's worked out a remedy for me, so hopefully that will be ready for me or Dan to pick up later today. And hopefully this one will be a bit kinder on my system. It's a matter of keep trying different things until we get the one that seems to suit me the best. It's like anything really. And I've been playing the piano this morning. I really enjoy playing Philip Glass. His pieces can be quite meditative. I also enjoy, of course, playing Eric Satie, and that is a man who was ahead of his time. And I do believe that were he around today, he would also be a classical minimalist composer. He definitely had that element in him with the repeating pattern structures as well. It came as no surprise to me. I was reading some biography about Philip Glass that he studied mathematics initially. As somebody who also enjoys mathematics, and I see music in patterns, very clear patterns and sequences, I guess that's why I just am able to study people like Philip Glass and Eric Satie and get enormous enjoyment out of playing their music. Dan's mum is coming down tonight for the weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing her. I haven't done too much today. I've made some bread. That's in the fridge until tomorrow, and I'll give it its second rise tomorrow morning. And I'm pottering about and just trying to get a bit of admin done. We took Merlin to the vet on Wednesday morning, and more good news. His diabetes is still well in remission, and the result was slightly less than it was a couple of months ago. So now he's on a lower dose. He's on 1 unit in the morning and 2 in the evening. And in a week's time, if all seems okay, we can take him down to 1 unit twice a day. And I can see real light at the end of the tunnel regarding his journey and his recovery from diabetes. And I think probably in a couple of months we will be able to stop giving him insulin. This is Saturday, the 17th of February 2024. Last night on his way home with his mum, Dan popped over to Lee's to collect my new remedy, and I took the first of the remedies this morning, which was Oak 100C. I've made some notes. So oak is a powerful remedy that provides strength and stability in difficult times of tension, overstrain and burden, and helps people to handle challenges they're being faced with. Now, some of you know that my family and I have had a number of traumas already in these first couple of months of 2024, and I had 3 upsetting pieces of information this week regarding family members, and I always find that trauma drags me down. I'm feeling really tired and run down. I feel like my sinuses are blocked. I haven't got a cold, but the tree pollen is rising and my eyes are itching. I'm going to my mum-in-law's for a week on Monday, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm taking a week out on self-care. So I'm not taking any laptop. I'll be taking my mobile phone, but we always have fun and adventures together, so I'm looking forward to that. It also gives Dan a chance to have some time out without me around as well, and that's good for him too. The symptoms of tension and overstrain can include other things like pain and tension in the neck and shoulders, backache, and refusing to stop or taking time out. I have actually slowed down the last few weeks. I started this journey. I'm probably still doing too much sometimes, but rather than dealing with things by doing things, I'm just taking more time to acknowledge what's going on and to have more rest. And it's a bit strange getting used to a slightly slower pace, but I think it's very necessary. Certainly in the past, I have sometimes dealt with trauma by doing things, and that included after my mother's death. I was extremely busy. It's maybe a way of blocking things out and just not being ready to address grief and other symptoms of trauma. 30C can be taken on a daily basis, or maybe 3 times a week when you've got used to it a bit. But I'm taking 100C once a week on a Saturday for 4 weeks, according to the instructions. When you feel that you no longer need it, then it's a good idea to stop taking it, because if you continue taking it for prolonged periods of time, you may start experiencing symptoms in form of an aggravation or more feelings of anxiety or trauma, aches and pains, because your body is telling you that it doesn't need any more of it. And when you stop taking it, those symptoms will generally start to dissipate. The other remedy I have taken today, which is every day for the next 4 weeks, is something called TG Syphilinium ayahuasca in the LM1 dose. Sometimes it's called the Q potency as well. It's a delivery system invented by Samuel Hahnemann towards the end of his illustrious life. The LM represents the Roman numeral for 50,000. They're called LM potencies because the dilution factor is 1 over 50,000 instead of the usual customary method of 1 over 100 dilution, or C potency. LM potencies were developed based on clinical experience that the body responds gently and effectively to repeated potencies. Bearing in mind I had a bad aggravation with the last remedy, Lee realises that I need something really gentle to get me started rather than something stronger, which might give me aggravations or other types of outbreak. LM is a liquid prepared by the homeopathic pharmacy, and it's shaken and diluted at least daily by the patient. Now, this is the ayahuasca, and I have just taken this about 15 minutes ago, and I tap it sharply on the palm of my hand and then release one drop in the mouth with the dropper. I'm not great with droppers. My coordination isn't that spectacular. And I messaged Lee to see if I could put the one drop on a spoon. And she said yes, but I need to make sure I wrap the bottle first, which I have done. It was okay. It tastes like slightly bitter. It's not unpleasant. Each day, the body, from taking such a remedy, is stimulated gently to a slightly higher degree, slowly raising the level of health until a threshold is reached within 20 days or so. But I need to be taking, according to the instructions, one drop per day for the next 4 weeks. After that, single isolated doses are taken as boosters only when needed. LM potencies require a bit more work, usually 10 seconds or so for each dose. Their advantages are myriad, however. When everything is going well, doses can be stopped altogether. When stress levels exceed tolerance, booster doses are taken as needed. Therefore, doses are customised to the ups and downs of life, which is important. The body will always tell you anyway when you've had enough. So, for example, if I'm okay and then start to experience an aggravation, I will contact Lee, but I'll probably need to stop taking the dose every day. Now, if there's no progress made within the 4 weeks, it's probably the wrong remedy. A lot of remedies are trial and error. Every patient is an individual. This is how homeopathy works, rather than the conventional medicine, which is based on one size fits all, whether it does or not. There's less emphasis on tailoring drugs to suit an individual's needs. Now, I do know something about ayahuasca. It grows in the heart of Amazonia. I once read an autobiography of somebody's spiritual journey. They spent some time in the Amazonian rainforest with indigenous tribes, and they took ayahuasca and had hallucinations and a Kundalini spiritual awakening. And as somebody who has done light work for a number of years and whose third eye has been quite active from a young age, I'm not sure how this is going to affect me, whether I'm going to have, say, an increase in experiences, or whether in fact it will help to calm things down a bit for me emotionally. The indigenous tribes believe that ingesting the vine of the souls will invest the user with the power to communicate with the spirit world. Ayahuasca works on not only the thymus gland, but also particularly on the pineal gland. And this gland, it's believed, is the one that those who do not mean us well have been trying to dull, to break our connection to our higher selves and also to the world of spirit, and lessen our communication and relationship with the universe. So in that respect, because I've been dealing with the spirit world for so many years, this is just what I'm a bit concerned about, that it might send things a bit leery, but we'll just have to see. Bearing in mind as well, homeopathy is based on like cures like. be interested to see whether I have any particular experiences with this particular remedy. The pineal gland secretes melatonin and serotonin. Melatonin is directly related to seasonal changes as a result of the changing patterns of sunlight. I, for example, suffer from SAD. I find the winter really difficult, especially on dull days. The day started out quite sunny today, but it's been dull for most of the day and it's gone quite cold. And it tends to bring my mood down. I've been feeling a bit antisocial today. It was probably after 10 o'clock before I could really speak to anybody this morning. That's just how I felt. There's an increase in melatonin in the body as a result of decreased or absence of light, such as in the winter or at night when asleep. The person affected succumbs to drowsiness. The brain can switch off, if you like, almost go into hibernation, and it is actually a thing. There have been studies in the past that show during the winter people's brains can start to go into hibernation. There are also longer term effects of melatonin related to sexual maturation. Serotonin, on the other hand, is a neurotransmitter which is stored in the synapses of the nerves and has its greatest concentration within the pineal gland. It's associated with mood swings, depression, and sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. Disease mainly enters through the pituitary gland. Psychotic and syphilitic miasmatic disease can enter through the generative zone. This is all very interesting. The endocrine glands are energy centres, and so the use of radiotherapy affects the ability of the endocrine glands to process their energy. Allopathic methods for treating tumours destroy the flower or visible manifestation. Remember, I had a benign pituitary adenoma some years ago, and it affected the whole of my endocrine system. The seed is in the endocrine glands, so this is the area that needs treatment. It's possible to work through lots of medical drugs, but prescribe high and repeatedly 1M and 10M use pineal gland in high potency. The one I've been taking is LM1. And it can be used in cancer, because there's always a seed in cancer, such as in eye cancer, it's the pineal gland, and it gives credence to pineal gland being third eye as well. The chakras are linked to certain areas of our body, and they're like a grid, if you like to think of it like that. The whole body is like a grid or a matrix, if you like. The chakras all linked, a bit like the tree of life, where you've got different archangels and higher beings for different areas of the tree. If you think of your body like a tree with the different chakras in a certain location but all linked together. So in breast cancer, the seed is in the thymus or the heart centre. People often don't resolve relationship issues when they should. Relationships can be worked on to a certain point, but there does come a point when they can't be retrieved. Remedies allow this process to develop naturally, and the outcome isn't our decision. When the heart centre opens, all the centres start to open up. We need each of us to be able to love or even like and accept ourselves for who we are, and what we stand for. Because unless we're able to do that, we may find it difficult to either form relationships or have long-lasting relationships. Inevitably, strife will occur somewhere down the line and perhaps lead to a strained or fractured relationship that cannot be recovered. The colours of ayahuasca are green for the heart chakra and purple for the crown chakra. In the case of congenital heart disease, pains can be real or phantom with a raised heart rate. Tiredness, exhaustion, anything from feeling sleepy to utter exhaustion and debility, unable to move from tiredness. For example, you may not be refreshed after an afternoon rest, for example. You may still feel really tired. Or if you do a lot of things, you may not be able to move from tiredness. And these, of course, are also symptoms of fibromyalgia or other chronic fatigue syndrome as well. Can have shakiness and disorientation, unable to recover one's energy with rest, feelings of detachment, poor memory and vagueness with the exhaustion, like brain fog as well, which is synonymous with CFS, muscular soreness and weakness from tiredness. Limbs can go to sleep, pins and needles, spinal sensations, tightness, tingling, aching and drawing, rushes of energy, which are associated with raised heartbeat that can cause anxiety. Something like the second wind. I find when I'm really busy, I get anxiety if I do more than I should. And I've noticed that since I've slowed down a bit, if I get busy again, I can feel the stress levels and the anxiety go up. And that's one of the things I've realised since I've started this journey, how much I was coping by being busy all the time and not stopping doing things. And having started to pause a bit more, I can see for the first time, really, in some respects, how much I have been affected by doing too much and how I'm getting worked up when I'm really, really busy. Whereas before, though it did happen sometimes and I would feel stressed, I'd feel my blood pressure go up or anxious. By slowing down, it to me feels even more obvious than it did before. So in times of sleep, some people sleep like the dead. Insomnia as well. I suffer from insomnia, or drug abuse, or overuse of sleeping pills. There's been times in the past where I tried taking herbal sleeping pills. They did not agree with me at all. I was walking around like a zombie. This happened after my mother's death. I couldn't sleep and I was taking natural sleeping pills, valerian actually. This was before her burial, which was a few weeks after her passing. But it just made me feel like a zombie. I mean, I went to a funeral, I felt zombified for most of the day because I'd taken something to calm me down. I was taking things during the day as well to calm me down, and they didn't agree with me at all, even though it was a natural remedy. People can be full of dreams. This remedy might suit people full of dreams. They might be bizarre dreams or revelatory, and some might also resolve issues from the past. Dreams seem more real than life. Desire to go back into the dream to continue it. I presume that this is also one of the reasons why Lee prescribed me the ayahuasca, because I do sometimes have quite vivid dreams. Sometimes I would like to go back into the dream, other times I don't want to at all. They can be freaky. Senses, heightened sensitivity of the five senses, vision and hearing, though touch can be extremely acute. Acute vision or blurred vision sees images superimposed on walls, floors, doors, other people's faces, or whatever is being looked at. Well, I've always been like that. I see images in the sky, in the clouds, in rock formations, in everything. All the senses are really sharp in me, personally. And I don't understand why people don't have the sharp senses that I do, but it's probably supernatural. I have at times an overactive gut. So this is another reason why Lee has given me ayahuasca. Pains can be sharp, sudden on appearance and quick to go, and tend to be less so at night. Malabsorption and malnutrition from a defective gut, multiple allergy syndrome. Well, you know, I've got like loads of allergies, so that's me to a T, the multiple allergy syndrome. And malnutrition, I don't know. I mean, my mum certainly had that. And I have been mindful for years now to drink hot water and lemon first thing in the morning to flush out any toxins, and a couple of spoons of bio yogurt, which I find helps me a lot. And my gut has been better since I started this journey, but having been without a remedy for 3 weeks until today, it was kind of flaring up a little bit. My gut was starting to get tetchy again. Not as bad as before, but it was, I could see some tetchiness coming back. On the back, it's good for people with injuries to the spine and coccyx, which I have. Tension in the neck, scoliosis and kyphosis, ailments from injuries that have affected the spine or the head. I've had whiplash a couple of times, and I have a condition called inflammation of the sacrotuberous ligament, which is down in the coccyx. It's similar to sciatica, but it goes in your hip and down the side of your leg. I had that diagnosed in 2019. It's one of the few tender points in the lower part of the body in fibromyalgia. It's a while since I've had a flare up. It can be extremely painful when it happens. Touch wood, I had a mild flare up at Christmas. My coccyx area was a bit whiny, but nothing like it's been in the past. And then there's things like AIDS, cancer, autism, ME, Parkinson's, strong history of drug abuse, grief, anxiety, anguish and fear on a prolonged scale, which has heightened every sense, unmitigated misery, mood swings between extremes of rage and well-being. I've been feeling angry lately. Changeable attitudes, jealousy, irritable and negative, awareness of childhood feelings, inability to remember what it was like to be a child. And so it goes on. It's possible to crave alcohol or stimulants such as tea and coffee and use ayahuasca as a remedy. And if you lose your appetite through maybe grief, I've been there, or anxiety as well, I find I lose my appetite quite easily if I become upset. So these are some of the reasons why Lee has tried me with ayahuasca, and I do hope that I see some improvements. As I said, I'm a bit concerned about the spiritual aspect when I'm already opened up. And I'm already a highly empathetic and sensitive person, but in other respects, with the physical elements and some of the emotional elements, I'm starting to feel a bit more positive about trying it since I've been reading more about it in this video. And there's various combinations you can use ayahuasca with, and they can include with silica, an oak, an arnica, cephalanium, arsenicum, ignatia, and emerald, which can be used to deal with inconsolable grief that's being expressed rather than buried. And some people who are really grief-stricken may find that some gem healing also works. Now, the other one that I have been asked to take is rose quartz. And I am to try 100C of rose quartz on a Monday for 4 weeks. Rose quartz, of course, is crystal to do with love, friendship, self-love, peace, harmony, that sort of thing. Gemstone remedies are actually quite new in homeopathy and are therefore underused. So full praise to Lee for daring to try me with a crystal remedy. I'm all for it. Crystals have been incredibly useful in practice so far, though, in difficult chronic cases where serious emotional trauma was involved. The keynote of all gemstones is a deep spiritual or religious component. Therefore, the patients who benefit from gemstones are all more attuned with the spiritual realm than average people. So that explains that. So empaths, people practicing meditation and other spiritual practices, priests, people with clairvoyant abilities. And I'm excited about trying the rose quartz, to be honest. In homeopathy, most remedies are made from plants, animal or mineral sources. Plant patients typically talk about feelings. So if the patient has had a burglary and many items were stolen from the house, the patient will talk about how he or she feels about the event, how this is affecting them emotionally, the sentimental value of the object stolen, and so on. The mineral patient would make a list of the stolen goods and talk about the mess the house was in. Everything was out of place. They feel like the rug has been pulled from under their feet and talk about support or lack of support. The animal patient will talk in terms of survival and attack, how they could have been killed or perhaps would have killed the burglar if they could. They would talk about invasion of space, someone intruding into their territory, den, and so on. The Belgian homeopath Anne Vivarka says that you can recognise a gem remedy patient because they have the qualities of two kingdoms, vegetable and mineral, or both mineral and animal. They are a combination, and this is the first clue. The homeopath will think about key themes for any remedy. I need to go back to the source and use what the main qualities are. Gems are basically rocks that go through a long process involving great pressure from the earth. Time and physical pressure transform ordinary minerals in crystallized rocks. The process gives them the hardness, the durability, and the sparkle for transformation. Trapped versus freedom. We need to dig to get the gems, and even when we find them, they're still rough, covered in dirt and other rocks, and we need to break through the rocks to set them free. Violence, abuse. The places where the most precious gems are found are also some of the most violent places in the world, and the process of extracting gems often leads to violence due to greed and abuse of human labour. Darkness versus light. Gems live in darkness, but once they are found and out in the open, they attract and reflect the light like no other mineral. In human terms, they remind us of the concepts of light versus darkness, good versus evil, which is why all religions employ precious stones in their symbolism, and I use the analogy of dark versus light a lot. And I have been doing in quite a few posts recently, making reference to dark versus light. Even in the darkest corner, there's always light. I'm really looking forward to trying the rose quartz because I'm really into my crystals. As some of you know, I have loads of crystals, so that excites me. And now I am going to have some supper. We're having fish and chips, which is a treat, and some sparkling mineral water. And afterwards, I might have a nice cup of jasmine green tea. This is Sunday evening, 18th of February. Last night I took the ayahuasca LM1 and I had the strangest dream. This is a recurring dream that happens occasionally, whereby Dan and I are in a house. It's like a really old house. It's not where we're living at the moment, and we're quite elevated from the ground, and there are holes in some of the floorboards that go right down into a much lower level, which is more like groundworks. It's very old. Last night in the dream, my fluffy black cat, Miss Robin, went through the large hole in the floorboards, right down onto the lower level. Now, occasionally, the dream can become a bit dark. It didn't do last night exactly, although I was concerned as to whether Miss Robin would be able to find her way back to us. I didn't know how that was going to happen because we were on a very high level. And I woke up, and as I was waking up, I could tell that Dan was awake next to me, even though it was early this morning. And I thought he said something to me, but I couldn't quite tell what he was saying. I heard his voice and words, but the message was incoherent. And I'd not long woken up, really. I'd only just woken up. And I said to him, "Did you just say something to me, babe?" And he said, "No, I must have linked into his higher self. That's the only explanation, because it was definitely his voice and his words. It's just that I was unable to understand what he was saying, what those words were. It was a jumble." That's just after one dose of ayahuasca. That hasn't really happened for a long time. I've taken the ayahuasca again this evening, and I will see how I am overnight. It feels a little bit freaky. I felt really tired today as well, even though I had a good night's rest. I did sleep well, and I'd used a few bursts of the Amanda Ellis Archangel Raphael spray last night, and I'm going to use the spray again tonight. I felt tired all day. My eyes have been really sore. The tree pollen's already out. I think I've got a bit of an allergy. I feel quite run down as well. I don't have a cold. We had a fundraiser this afternoon at home. We had some people come and raised money for Pilgrim's Hospice and Cats in Crisis Thanet. We all had a nice time. It was a potluck, so everybody brought something to share. Had some really yummy food, amazing cheesecake, gorgeous cauliflower with pomegranate molasses and a dal, which was yummy, and a really nice veggie orzo dish as well with some corn. It was so yum. Everything was really nice. And I'd made some things as well, and Dan had helped. His pancake skills are excellent. We made some Hungarian pancakes, savoury ones, with cottage cheese and dill. They were yum as well. And I served those with some of my red cabbage and beetroot ferment. It's so good. We had such a lovely time. And now I'm ready for a good night's sleep. I'm going up to London tomorrow and hope I get another good night's rest and don't feel quite so tired.